Breaking news from Chicago O'Hare Airport. Tonight, federal agents uncovered a network that infiltrated America's most critical infrastructure. 410 arrests across 7 states, 11.2 tons of narcotics seized. But the encrypted files they recovered reveal something far more disturbing.
The cargo manifest said it was industrial machinery, 15 pallets, pre-cleared, priority release. Blake Sullivan had signed every single one. But when DHS forensic teams cracked open the crates under the fluorescent lights of Terminal 5, there was no industrial machinery. 410 kilograms of pure cocaine, vacuum-sealed inside equipment packaging. So convincing that even custom scanners had passed it clean. On the table beside the crate, Sullivan's personal authorization stamp, used 107 times in the past 13 months. This moment ended a 16-month investigation, and what federal agents were about to find inside that airport would shake law enforcement to its core. If you believe cartels infiltrating federal infrastructure deserve life sentences, tap like now and comment "expose them." 2:47 a.m. Chicago O'Hare International Airport, Illinois. On paper, this was one of the busiest cargo corridors in North America. 2.8 million tons of freight processed annually. 240 international carriers. Billions in legitimate commerce moving through those terminals every single week. But beneath that surface, something else was moving. The DEA's Midwest Intelligence Division had been tracking a ghost, a narcotics pipeline so clean, so well protected, that for over a year, it barely left a trace. 13 months of seized phones, burned couriers, and dead-end leads had finally collapsed into one name, one man, one badge. Haiti, $240 million in narcotics, 68 arrests, and a network so deeply embedded in American infrastructure that senior DEA commanders would later describe it as the most operationally sophisticated domestic infiltration we have ever documented. But here are the questions nobody could answer yet. Who gave Sullivan his clearance codes? Why had 7 federal inspections in the past year been quietly redirected away from Terminal 5? What was inside the encrypted drive recovered from a maintenance locker in Concourse C? And why, when agents pulled satellite phone records, did one number trace back to a retired military attaché with active federal clearance? Type Terminal 5 if you're ready to see what they found. 3:38 a.m. FBI breach teams hit 7 locations simultaneously. Not just the airport, not just one terminal. 7 locations all activated within the same 88-second window. Manki. Terminal 5, Cargo Bay, a private aviation hangar on the airport's northwest perimeter. A logistics warehouse in Schaumburg, a commercial cold storage facility in Elgin, a stash house in Cicero, a document processing office in downtown Chicago that on paper was a freight consulting firm, and a residential compound in Lake Forest. At Terminal 5, the first breaching team moved through the cargo access corridor in total silence. No flashbangs, no shouted commands, tactical precision. They needed the servers intact. The moment the first agent cleared the secondary door, they found 4 men mid-shred, documents feeding into an industrial destroyer, laptops already wiped, one man with a phone in his hand that he swallowed. Rather than surrender, they were too late to stop the shredder. They weren't too late for everything else. At the Schaumburg warehouse, SWAT hit the loading dock just as a convoy of 4 refrigerated trucks was pulling out. 3 trucks stopped. 1 ran. A DEA chase unit intercepted it 14 blocks away. Inside, 1.7 tons of methamphetamine, packed inside frozen food crates, 820,000 fentanyl pills, pressed to look like prescription Vicodin, and a manifest signed by a logistics coordinator whose name would appear again, much later, in a very different context. Comment 1.7 tons if this seizure shocks you. Across all 7 locations, within the first 45 minutes, 3.4 tons of cocaine, 1.6 million fentanyl pills, $18 million in loose cash, 54 military-grade rifles, 16 handguns with obliterated serials, and body armor, 4 sets bearing authentic Illinois State Police markings. But it was what agents found in the consulting office in downtown Chicago that changed everything. A server rack, still running, military-grade encrypted, and on the primary terminal, a single open folder labeled Blueprint. The file was 7.8 gigabytes. The agents couldn't open it on site. It went to Quantico on the first available flight. What was on that drive? That's when the investigation stopped being a drug case and became something else entirely. If you think this is big, the next discovery will shock you. Stay with me. 7 hours later, FBI Cyber Command, Quantico, Virginia, 3 analysts from the Bureau's critical infrastructure team cracked the first encryption layer at 1:23 p.m. Raxe. What populated their screens wasn't just a cartel ledger. It was an architecture, a living map. Shell companies, 38 of them, nested inside agricultural import firms, freight forwarding companies, and 3 registered charities operating out of Milwaukee. Ghost accounts routing money through Dubai, then Cyprus, then back into 3 Illinois-based construction contractors. They named it internally Operation Silent Gateway. The money flow was elegant and brutal. Sinaloa Cartel moved product into cargo shipments originating from legitimate Mexican commercial partners. Those shipments entered O'Hare under pre-authorized clearance codes, codes that only a federal aviation security director could generate. Type Silent Gateway if you see the infrastructure. The cargo cleared without secondary inspection. The proceeds moved through shell companies, laundered as contractor payments, and a portion landed in a private account registered to a Wyoming LLC with no public officers. One analyst, 14-year veteran Sarah Chen, later told her supervisor she had to step away from her screen for 6 minutes, not because of the volume, because of how organized it was. In 14 years, she reportedly said, "I've seen dirty money. I've never seen dirty architecture." And then they found the payments ledger, badge numbers, not names, just numbers. And beside each number, monthly deposits disguised as consulting fees, aviation security consultants, traffic analysis contractors, 17 airport staff, and one entry that made the room go silent. One badge number traced back to Blake Sullivan, $29,000 a month for 13 months, $377,000 total. Every payment arriving the week after a major Sinaloa shipment cleared Terminal 5 without inspection. But Sullivan wasn't working alone. The blueprint file referenced a secondary authorization chain, someone with federal clearance above airport authority level, someone identified only by a code name, Architect. Pause for a second. Guess who Architect is? Because the answer comes in 60 seconds. Comment Architect if you're ready for the reveal. 6:08 a.m. Joint Task Force Command Center, Springfield, Illinois. The digital map on the main screen showed 52 red markers, pulsing across Illinois and neighboring states. Chicago, Rockford, Peoria, Springfield, Bloomington. Champaign, not a cartel network, a system. 1,400 federal agents mobilized, 72 SWAT teams, 21 Black Hawk helicopters, DEA, tactical units sweeping truck corridors along Interstate 55, ICE strike teams, hitting border-adjacent logistics hubs, U.S. Army surveillance assets, tasked to 4 known smuggling corridors, simultaneous raids across the region, a rural super lab outside Rockford, producing 600 kilograms of methamphetamine weekly, breached and destroyed in under 5 minutes. A cartel luxury compound outside Lake Geneva, 7 senior Sinaloa logistics coordinators arrested. A distribution tunnel system beneath a commercial property in Gary, Indiana, 420 meters long, equipped with rail tracks and ventilation, mapped, documented, and collapsed. A human trafficking transit house in Aurora, 54 victims rescued, including 13 minors. Total seizures across all operations, 11.2 tons of narcotics, $82 million in cash and seized assets, 410 arrests, 104 firearms, 19 armored vehicles, and then the final blueprint server decrypted, type 11.2 tons. If this scale shocks you, Architect wasn't a cartel contact. Architect was retired Brigadier General Marcus Webb, former Federal Border Security Liaison, holder of active top-secret clearance, and the man who had personally lobbied 4 years ago for Terminal 5's expanded pre-clearance authority. The man who had designed the very inspection protocols that Sullivan had been exploiting. The architect of the corridor, not Sullivan's handler, Sullivan's creator. This next part, I need you to focus, because this is where it gets terrifying. The blueprint file wasn't a ledger, it was a contingency archive. 28 police officers across 5 Illinois cities, 9 Border Patrol agents, 5 sitting judges, 14 state legislators, every name, every payment, every recorded call. Ray, all of it documented, not by investigators, but by Webb himself. Insurance, a dead man's switch, preloaded and encrypted, set to auto-release to 17 media organizations if Webb ever lost access to the server for more than 96 hours. The methods were surgical. Border Patrol agents with routes, quietly adjusted during convoy windows, falsified patrol logs creating invisible safe corridors. A Chicago district judge who had dismissed 12 narcotics cases in 21 months, each one involving a Sinaloa-connected defendant. Comment dead man's switch if this insurance policy shocks you. Internal raid schedules, leaked 72 hours in advance, twice. Evidence that walked out of a Chicago evidence locker and was never recovered. At a federal courthouse in Springfield, a deputy U.S. Marshal watched his own precinct captain escorted out in handcuffs. He didn't speak to the press. He stood in the parking garage for 27 minutes before going back inside. This wasn't a few bad apples, said the lead FBI task force commander in a closed briefing later that day. This was a parallel system, a second force, one that answered to the cartel, not the Constitution. General Webb was arrested at his Lake Forest home at 7:19 a.m. He said nothing. He didn't need to. The file had already said everything. The network ran deeper than Illinois. Trucking routes operating under fake agricultural permits moved product north through Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. Port contacts in Chicago with compromised dock inspectors. Shipping lane manifests falsified at origin. Way stations conveniently closed for maintenance during convoy passage windows. This network moved an estimated 5.3 tons of narcotics per week across 14 states without triggering a single federal alert. Blake Sullivan was formally charged on 41 federal counts. General Webb faced espionage and racketeering charges. 410 cartel members were in custody. The tunnels were sealed. The shell companies frozen. The network was dismantled. Justice was served. Or so they thought. Type "or so they thought" if you're ready for the twist. Because buried in the final partition of the blueprint file was one folder they almost missed, dated 4 weeks before the raid, titled Phase 2. Inside it, 4 new cities, 4 new airport cargo corridors, 4 new sets of pre-authorized clearance codes, and 4 names the FBI had never seen before. The silent gateway hadn't been stopped. It had been franchised, and the next generation was already operational. They didn't just infiltrate the system, they redesigned it. And shutting down one network just revealed how many more were waiting. In Illinois alone, 2,800 overdose deaths were recorded last year. 67% involved fentanyl from networks linked to this corridor. Neighborhoods hollowed out. Families that will never reassemble. 54 victims rescued from that Aurora transit house. But investigators believe more than 230 people processed through that network are still missing. The one father from Naperville, whose 21-year-old daughter died from a fentanyl pill she believed was Xanax, said she thought she was taking something to help her sleep. Someone decided her life was worth less than a shipping invoice. That pill came from a batch cleared through Terminal 5, authorized by Blake Sullivan, protected by Marcus Webb. Comment 2,800 deaths if you believe every victim deserves justice. This is not just a crime story. This is a blueprint. It happened here. It is happening elsewhere. And power doesn't always need violence. Sometimes it just needs silence, a badge, and ambition pointed in the wrong direction.